We can learn a lot from nature. I was recently on a hike by a river and I was contemplating how this river was moving almost effortlessly, yet it was so powerful that it had cut through rock. And it made me really think about surrender and least resistance in my own life. Giving up control and surrendering to life, it's often one of the toughest things to do. I notice that when I do surrender and let go, that my life just seems to flow, and even projects that I'm working on or whatever, they just seem to come together and go straight to the intended goal. It's like a rock that's dropped into the water. It's in a state of complete surrender, and it quickly finds its way right to the riverbed. The rock is not consumed with like thoughts and worries about how it's going to get there or when, or it's struggling against the gravity that's pulling it down. It just goes, right? So the etymology of the word surrender, it means to give up, as in like give something up. So we're not talking about surrender in the sense of quitting, right? Because we can surrender our worry, our fears, our struggle. And when we surrender, we stop fighting. We stop fighting the natural flow of life and intended path. And as the old proverb says, if we're facing in the right direction, all we have to do is keep walking. Once we set upon an intended path, we can surrender and just enjoy the process as we move toward our intended goal. So although we often feel that we have to overwork the path and worry and overthink and analyze the path, this only serves to impede us from the goal. We can give 100% to something without fighting it or incessantly worrying about it. But we're in the habit of worry and fighting. Struggles become a habit, basically. So we bring it into our goals, often sabotaging our goals because the worry and struggle gets too heavy upon the path toward our intended goals. But the heaviness, it's just in the mind that worries, the mind that attempts to control. In reality, we can have an intended goal and do our best in each moment. But the fruits, the final result, it's something we really never know, even if we think we do. In fact, we don't even know if we're going to live out this hour, but we pretend to. I pretend to know. We all do this. Control is a fear response. The fear that what we want may not show up, it drives us to micromanage our lives to the point of being control freaks. The paradox, though, is that the more we try to control, the less we feel in control. Hence the worry and anxiety. We can ask ourselves, though, what am I afraid of? Because often the very things we fear happening, we actually create to happen by meditating on it in the form of worry and anxiety. So how then do we let go and surrender? Well, the simple answer is that we just do. And the complicated answer is that it could be the toughest and simplest thing you ever do. But I guarantee it'll not only be one of the most liberating things you do, but it'll help ensure your success in all you do. Once we set the intention or goal, we can practice just being 100% present and enjoy the process toward that goal. In this way, we're going to give 100% to what we're actually doing in that moment. So the irony of control is that it takes away from us doing our best because we waste this energy on anxiety and worry and fear, making us less strong and less capable of giving 100%. The ignorance of control is that we think without it that we can't meet our goals. This is completely false. When we learn to surrender our fears, we then learn to be present and enjoy the bliss of the present moment. Control keeps us locked in future expectations. So when we catch ourselves when we're doing this, when we find ourselves to be tense and worrisome, we can practice stopping. Maybe we can write it out, until we have some realization that our controlling mind is actually impeding our success. All it takes is a change of perspective. We can cultivate patient acceptance as opposed to controlling fear. Learning to accept the moment for what it is, it gives us the power to surrender and create within that moment and work with the moment without needing to control it. I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell, and the great Joseph Campbell once said, "We're in a free fall into future. We don't know where we're going, and things are changing so fast, and when you're going through a long tunnel, anxiety comes along. It's natural. And all you have to do to transform your hell into a paradise is to turn your fall into a voluntary act. It's a very interesting shift of perspective, and that's all it is. Joyful participation in the sorrows, and everything changes. By bringing joy into the moment, we learn to participate in the game of life with joy. The more we do this, the more we'll shift our habits from the control freak who enjoys little to the skillful enjoyer who's confident in knowing his or her goals are obtainable and we don't have to fret or worry to make them happen. But the worry mind, it's a habit and we can change it. For me, meditation is a great way to train in this because in meditation, we're essentially learning to let go. We aren't fighting the worry mind or suppressing it. We see it arise and we let it go and we choose something different. So, like the powerful river who's always in the present moment, we too can learn to let go and surrender and just enjoy the small amount of time that we have here on this earth.